because I'm excited by what God's doing, but it came and it was birthed out of a moment a few weeks ago that I had that I want to share with you. I realized I'd got to the point where I was running around a fair bit doing things, and the truth is I was feeling incredibly overwhelmed. I was somewhat running on empty, as you would say, and so I did something that used to be a practice of mine when I first came to Moriah and has just fallen by the wayside. And so I picked up my Bible, and I picked up coffee, and I picked up my headphones, three of the kind of core components of my faith. And I went and sat in the top corner up there and just spent some time with God. And it was incredibly important for me to do that. But I'd realized how much I was neglecting that side of my life. And something struck me as I sat there, and I'm going to suggest that it was quite possibly God speaking to me. But I came to this realization: I was so busy being a Christian that I didn't have any time for Jesus. I was so busy being a Christian that I just wasn't making time for Jesus anymore. I don't know if anyone else can relate to that. We get so busy, so caught up with things, and there's sometimes such good things that we are doing that we realize that the thing that we've sacrificed to do it is that time with Jesus. Intentional, set-apart time to be in his presence. We can do it for all sorts of things in life, but I think the danger is it's at its worst when we are doing Christian things and substituting out Jesus to make time for them, because they look good and they sound good and they are good things, but it seems like a bad payoff when it's Jesus that is the thing sacrificed. So I sat there in the top corner with my Bible, and I stopped and I made intentional time to hang out with Jesus. It turned out to be two things: a fairly substantial kick up the backside by Jesus on myself, and the loving embrace that I realized I was so desperately in need of in amongst a season of constantly doing. So everything I share this morning was birthed from that spot up there and the heart state that I went in, which was worn down and tired and highly active, but still wanting something of a relationship with Jesus from it. So if no one here can relate to this morning, then I'm very comfortable to be preaching to myself. But my trust is that many of us will have found ourselves in that place. So I wonder if you'd be honest with yourself to answer that question. Do you get so busy being a Christian, doing Christian things, that you don't make time for Jesus? As I sat there, I had no idea what I was going to be doing, but I decided the best thing to do was read ahead to where I would next be preaching in Isaiah. So this was birthed 2 weeks ago. So as I said, when Chris read, the preach was done and dusted. When Sam messaged this morning, everything was in place to go. And God spoke to me incredibly deeply through the entire collection of passages that we looked at this last week. So please don't panic. We're not covering all of them, but we are going to look at two of them. But before I do that, I want to ask you a question, and there is a prize, because I've realized if you want participation from people, the only way to do that is to pay them off. So there is a prize. There is Pick and Mix, there are Jelly Tots, Fruit Pastels, and Fruit Gums. These used to have the little squares in them. I can't remember, Tutti Fruities, which I was banned from in my house until the age of 18, because apparently they made me hyper, which I find hard to believe. But the question is this: I want to know what all of these things have in common. Am I going to be able to click? Oh, we could have some fun this morning if I can't click. Okay, I'm on you at the back. Can you click through, please? So we have a runner, and then we have a whale, then there is an oak tree, a house, a fireplace, a compost heap, an accordion, and a loaf of bread dough. And then the next slide is all of them together to make it easier. Let's go with hands up so that I can pick a clear winner. What do all of these things have in common? I'm very good. I like all of the sweets in this packet, and I have no shame in keeping them. Anyone want to hazard a guess? What do all of these things have in common? Energy is close. Air is close, but I'm looking for something more. Oxygen is, I'm looking for something more. Oh gosh, I feel like a talk show host. I'm looking for more. So far, all of the answers have been correct in a way, but there is something very deliberate I'm looking for. Not effort. Pardon? They all breathe. Round of applause, please. No? People won't take part if I steal all the sweets. So all of them need to breathe. They all breathe. All of them have this action of breathing in and out, in and out. And it's the same with our faith. And that's what I came to realize sat up there. It's the same with our faith. Because I believe we need to be a people who have a rhythm of life that looks like breathing in and breathing out. If a runner doesn't breathe, they will collapse. A tree will wither, a fire will go out, an accordion will fall silent. In their own way, they need to breathe in and they need to breathe out. Faith needs to breathe. We need to breathe in and we need to breathe out. I sat there in that corner and I realized I was doing a whole lot of breathing out without breathing in. I was doing a whole lot of breathing out and I wasn't breathing in. So I'm going to invite Chris and I'm going to invite Anne to come and read for us. But I want you to consider as they make their way forwards, are you in the process of suffocating your faith by spending too long breathing in or maybe too long breathing out? Thank you both.
Come, all you who are thirsty, come to the waters. And you who have no money, come, buy and eat. Come, buy wine and milk without money and without cost. Why spend money on what is not bread and your labor on what does not satisfy? Listen to me and eat what is good, and your soul will delight in the richest of fare. Give ear to me, hear me, that your soul may live. I will make an everlasting covenant with you, my faithful love promised to David. See, I have made him a witness to the peoples, a leader and commander of the peoples. Surely you will summon nations you know not, and nations that do not know you will hasten to you because of the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, for he has endowed you with splendor. Seek the Lord while he may be found. Call on him while he is near. Let the wicked forsake his way, and the evil man his thoughts. Let him turn to the Lord, and he will have mercy on him, and to our God, for he will freely pardon. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. As the rain and the snow come down from heaven, and do not return to it without watering the earth and making it bud and flourish, so that it yields seed for the sower and bread for the eater, so is my word that goes out from my mouth. It will not return to me empty, but will accomplish what I desire and achieve the purpose for which I sent it. You will go out in joy and be led forth in peace. The mountains and hills will burst into song before you, and all the trees of the field will clap their hands. Instead of the thorn bush will grow the pine tree, and instead of the briars, the myrtle will grow. This will be for the Lord's renown, for an everlasting sign which will not be destroyed.
No, this is the kind of fasting I want. Free those who are wrongly imprisoned. Lighten the burden of those who work for you. Let the oppressed go free and remove the chains that bind people. Share your food with the hungry and give shelter to the homeless. Give clothes to those who need them, and do not hide from relatives who need your help. Then your salvation will come like the dawn, and your wounds will quickly heal. Your godliness will lead you forward, and the glory of the Lord will protect you from behind. Then when you call, the Lord will answer. Yes, I am here, he will quickly reply. Remove the heavy yoke of oppression. Stop pointing your finger and spreading vicious rumors.
Awesome, thank you both. Just some rolling repairs as we go. So we find ourselves in these two passages with a really natural rhythm. This idea of breathing in and breathing out. Isaiah 55, we have breathe in, a collection of inward actions. Isaiah 58, we have this example of how to breathe out, this rhythm of breathing in and breathing out. So I want us to dive into Isaiah 55 to look at what this is to breathe in. What is part of the rhythm of our lives as people who follow Jesus that breathes in? There's 4 key components, I believe, in Isaiah 55 that we learn from. We come, we listen, we seek, and we set up to go. So we begin here. Come, all who are thirsty, come to the waters, and you who have no money, come, buy and eat. Come, buy wine and milk without money and without cost. It seems so glaringly obvious to say in a room of people in church, you need to come into the presence of God to breathe in. And yet there will be those in this room that know that they have come to things and they have not come with the intentionality of necessarily receiving or even encountering God, but they have come because it's what we do. It's Sunday morning, it's 11:05, it's time for church. It is crucial that we come. But it's also crucial that we understand the posture in which we come with. We come with a posture that we are aware of our need for God. We come with an awareness that we have nothing that we can bring to bargain with. We quite simply come as we are before him. We need to realize that every time we come into God's presence, we come with the same thing we came to the foot of the cross with the first time, and that is nothing of worth to pay the price for our sins. And yet we come to the cross with an awareness that we receive in grace so much. We need to find a rhythm of life that allows us to come before God, aware of our need for him, aware that he is a God who loves, who provides. We begin the process of breathing in by coming before God. This made me wonder, when we look at this passage from that mentality of breathing, what is the posture? What is your breathing mentality when you come into God's presence? Do you come with short, sharp breaths in a rush, just needing to grasp and gasp something of God's air as you fly on to the next thing? Is it just a quick touch of bass before rushing into the next thing? Or maybe you come with those deep, long breaths, but the sad thing is they soon turn into snores because you come exhausted, tired and worn. And as much as you want to focus on what you're doing, the truth is you come into God's presence as almost a last resort for some form of rest and respite from the busyness. Or do you come? Do you settle? Do you breathe deep in his presence? Come all you. The invitation to come is there, to breathe in, to find rhythm. It begins with this deliberate moment where we choose to come. And the incredible thing is this: as we come, we receive. We receive, as the passage tells us, things that we have no way of purchasing, and yet we are freely given. But it's also important that as we come, we don't just simply come to receive. We come to hear, give ear, and come to me. Listen, that you may live. I will make an everlasting covenant with you, my faithful love promised to David. We need to come to get, but we also need to come to hear, to breathe in God's word, to listen. And why would we stop and listen? Give ear and come to me, listen, that you may live. The act of listening seems to be an incredible part of our faith journey. God will speak. God is speaking. The question is, when we come into his presence, when we come on a Sunday morning, do we come with the expectation that God will speak to us? Are we listening for his voice? As I shared at the beginning of this message, so often I can come so busy that I don't give God time to speak. It creates a really dangerous tension for us when we come to listen to God, because what if God's shopping list and my shopping list don't match up? What if the things I want to pray about aren't the thing that God's challenging my heart about? But it's so important for our relationship with God that we come and we listen. That we listen. Making space to breathe deeply and to hear God's voice speaking into our lives. Those people that joined us with the Lectio course would have seen this rhythm over the time, but do we come to read the word? Those of you following the Bible plan, do we come to read it because it's the right reading for that day? Or do we come expecting that God will speak to us through his word? Part of breathing in is this expectation that God wants to be a part of our lives and speak into them. As we come with purpose. We come seeking God. Seek the Lord while he may be found. Call on him while he is near. This is important for us to hear. This is crucial for us to hear. You may be wondering why I've included it. Obviously, if I am coming to God, I am seeking him. If I come to pray, it's to pray to him. But the rhythm, the breathing process isn't just to go through the motions, it's to be intentional. To be intentional with that action. You see, it's one thing to acknowledge that someone is in the room. I've acknowledged various people on the balcony and other people in the room. It's one thing to acknowledge them. But it is another thing to go and make conversation with them. It's one thing to acknowledge someone, but it is another thing to go and intentionally make conversation with them, to engage with them. Do you spend more time in God's presence than in his company? Do you spend more time in God's presence than in his company? You see, presence is being in God's general vicinity. Welcome to God's presence. You are all here. Presence is being in the general vicinity. At church, in a prayer meeting, but to be in God's company is to engage with him. To be in his company is to intentionally say, I am going to place myself within your presence, God, but I'm not just going to be here. I'm going to choose to engage. I'm going to choose to seek you. I'm going to choose to listen. I'm going to choose to be open to receiving from you. It is one thing to be present. It is another thing to choose to engage. To be in God's company. I wonder if we were to stop and give a moment of thought. Did you arrive this morning to come to church? Or did you arrive this morning to come and spend some time with God? Because as I said, I spent some time up there realizing there are Sundays I come to work on a Sunday morning. Not to be in God's presence, not to be in his company, but to do the thing that I do on a Sunday. So this morning when you left your house, was it with the intentionality of making sure you got to Moriah Church, or to be amongst fellow believers and be in God's company, to encounter him, to believe that he wants to speak into your life? The act of breathing in is far more complex than maybe we give it credit for, and which is why so many of us find ourselves grasping for something of God. We're at so many things, but are we choosing to encounter him? Are we choosing to intentionally seek him and to call upon him whilst he is near? I love these two passages. I think they tie together superbly. I know they aren't one after another, but they tie together incredibly well. And the final act of breathing in, and any of you who have ever been in those situations, and sometimes they do them in team building things where they tell you to take a deep breath in, and then they count. They're like, I'm going to count down from 10, and I'm like, you've got 5 seconds before I collapse. I cannot hold my breath for that long, but they do it, don't you? And you know it, as the time ticks down, you get to that final point, 3, 2, and your body is already desperately ready for the next action. And that's how this finishes. It finishes as this. This is the final act of breathing in, even though it sounds like it's already breathing out. The final act of breathing in is the knowledge that you will go out in joy. When we breathe in God, when we intentionally choose to be in his presence, the final part of receiving that is the knowledge that it doesn't finish with a big inward breath and then you will collapse and you stay here all week. It is the knowledge that as you finish breathing in, the process of breathing out is just about to begin. You will go out in joy and be led forth in peace. Your presence will be a part of mountains and hills bursting into song before you. The trees of the field will clap their hands. The final part of intentionally breathing in God, having a rhythm of life that allows for those spaces to be intentional in your relationship with him, is the knowledge that it doesn't finish with a big inward breath. The inward breath finishes with your body and your spiritual life reflexing to breathe out. Isaiah is giving us a model of what life looks like as we breathe faith in and we live faith out. Breathing in is not a single action. It needs to be accompanied with breathing out. And we find ourselves in our next section of verses in that process of breathing out. 3 key indicators for this end process of breathing out: actively standing against justice, being practical in our faith, and then the final one again is a knowledge of what will happen, that God will pour in. So what does it look like to breathe out? This would be a great message. If this was a 2-week message, there would be a bunch of people that would be busy next Sunday. Because for many of us, this is the model of Christianity that we think we've signed up for. Yeah, God, I'm going to come to church, and I'm going to receive from you, and I'm going to seek your face, and you're going to speak to me, and during the week I'm going to do my Bible studies, and all of a sudden we find we are just constantly breathing in, and Isaiah doesn't give us that room. Because Isaiah goes on to say, is this not the kind of fasting I have chosen, to loosen the chains of injustice and untie the cords of the yoke, to set the oppressed free and break every yoke? This is an incredibly difficult verse if we give it room to really sit amongst us this morning. Because it's really easy to look like I'm doing the right thing. We are very well-educated Christians. But Isaiah is saying, it's funny, the thing that you're doing, the fasting in this case, it's not about what it looks like. It's about what it's doing. When you commit to living a life of faith, when you commit to practicing your faith, it isn't to do the practice for practice sake. It isn't to come to the prayer meetings because you've come to the prayer meeting. It's so that the actions of your faith are lived out. The outward breath is active. It is an active process. Our faith life should look like breathing in and breathing out, a rhythm that allows us to breathe in, but also a rhythm that allows us to breathe out with action. So if our faith life should look like this, what's the first thing we see? Well, the first thing we see as a person of faith, as an indicator of someone who's got a healthy rhythm, is this: we should be a people who take a stand against injustice. What does an active faith look like? It looks like the faith of someone who is standing against injustice. I believe this statement to be true on global issues, where we come before God, and the very best at times we can offer are those genuine, heartfelt prayers that he will break through. To be people who stand in the gap as intercessors. But I also believe it to be this: the church needs to be proactive more locally as well. The church and people of faith need to add their voice to the cries of justice within the world around them. Those day-to-day injustices, I don't know if you do this, it's a rabbit hole that I've managed to fall down on social media. But there is a collection of social media influencers. I don't think being an influencer is a real job for the side point. But there's people who do this social media influencing, and they find people that are in difficult situations, and they gift them outrageous things. So they often go and they find kids who are selling lemonade on the side of the street, and they say to them, what are you selling lemonade for? And they're like, my parents are going to lose their house. And he's like, that's really sad. What would it mean to you if someone gave you a load of money to buy the house? And it goes on. And then they give them the money, and you are caught in the emotion of it. There is something incredibly powerful about watching somebody support someone else. My challenge for myself is this: why am I so comfortable watching videos of other people doing it rather than doing it myself? Now, I don't have the money to buy a house before anyone panics, but I can do things. I can do things. The most simple thing any of us can do, all of you are qualified to do this, is acknowledge other people in the street. You have no idea how many people are lonely, how many people assume that no one else in the world sees them. You want to stand against injustice? Give people the knowledge that they are people. They are seen. They are valued. The first and foremost thing we can do to stand against injustice is to allow people to know they are seen. Many of us could afford to buy sausage rolls for people begging on the street. We can be present in these situations. I have heard numerous arguments. I've been in church far longer than I would like to admit, knowing, but if you give them stuff, they're just going to spend it on drugs. There is no wiggle room for you to have an excuse to do what God's calling you to. What they choose to do with what you've given them is them. But my call, as a person of faith, it would appear from what I'm reading in the Bible, is to be present in those places and to be someone who sees them and someone who provides. If you don't want to give them money, take that few extra steps to go to a coffee shop. Buy them something. Give them something. Stand up against the injustices that the world is creating for people in our lives and in our communities. We love, and I'm as guilty of this as anyone, we love to be present at things that make us feel good. We will love being a church family next week, having a barbecue together. Breathe in. But are we the kind of people that extend that hospitality and that love to those that we don't know who are facing injustice? How can we breathe out faith that looks like standing against the injustices that we see in the world around us? It gets harder. Be nice if Isaiah left it here, but he doesn't. Because the second act, if we are a people who should stand against injustice as we breathe out our faith, it doesn't just end with standing, it becomes a practical. Is it not to share your food with the hungry, to provide the poor wanderer with shelter? When you see the naked, to clothe them, and do not turn away from your own flesh and blood. Isaiah gives us 3 ways to be practical with our faith. 3 ways to be practical with our faith: to share your food, to provide shelter, and to give clothing. To feed the hungry, to shelter the wanderer, to clothe the naked. I would add a 4th. I'm not adding to the Bible. This is a Timism, not a Bibleism. To help weed the garden of the elderly. I told you Sam's notice was good. How? How do we breathe out our faith? Well, it is practical. I'm going to challenge you, and it's a challenge again that I'm living in my own life. If I have not done anything practical for the community around me, I would suggest you are beginning to suffocate your faith. Because there is no bones about it. The way that we live out our faith is to share food with the hungry, to provide for the poor wanderer shelter, and to give clothing to the naked. Please hear me, there will be times in your life when you are not abundantly aware of the needs of those around you. It's not a criticism, but it is a challenge, because there are many of us that know we have turned our backs on opportunities because it's inconvenient. Oh, God. It's just a lot right now. I really need to get back to my car. And there's someone that needs something in the high street. And if I stop, I'm going to go over the parking time, and it's £1.40 extra. And we're great at making excuses, on turning our backs on a very real need in the world around us. What does the act of breathing out our faith look like? It looks practical. To not simply observe the challenges someone else is facing, but to act upon them as a result of seeing them. To act upon them as a result of seeing them. We're not called to be a people that gather in churches and huddle together, and I couldn't find the spelling for this word, but tusk, you know what I mean, like at the state of the world. There are churches that do that. There's churches that will tell you the world is out there and it's going to hell. So keep as far away from it as possible. Otherwise you'll get drawn in. I do not see the gospel of Jesus telling us to be distant from the needs of the world around us, but to be salt and light in those places. You want to know how to be salt and light? Give some food to the hungry. Provide shelter for the wanderer. Give clothing to the naked. Practically, to breathe out your faith is very simple, but it will cost you. Are we willing to be a people who both breathe in and breathe out? Not simply suffocate ourselves with the inward breath, but to breathe out our faith, to live out our faith as we are called to. The rhythm of life that we are called to as people of faith should be a very natural process, an inward breath, to breathe in all God has got for us, but to be intentional with that deeper relationship with him as we breathe in. And then it should look like breathing out as Isaiah lays out to us. Isaiah's not calling us to prove that we love God in every meeting we attend. He's not telling us that we need to street evangelize to 20 people before we can come back next Sunday. Isaiah's telling us the outward breath of faith is to be practical. Now, please hear me. There will be incredible opportunities to share your faith with people, but they will listen better when you have provided for some of the real needs they have before them. If you want to share your faith with people, my advice would be don't yell at them, but come alongside them. Do life beside them. Listen to what they need. See where you can provide for it. It can be, as we've said, to feed them, to shelter them, to give clothing. It can be the gesture of gardening for someone that's asked for help. Be alongside them. My faith, I'll talk for myself rather than anyone else, but my faith should be a faith that impacts the last, the least, and the lost. That's what my faith should look like. This is amazing. Please keep coming to church. This is not a Sunday morning lion message. Please keep coming. Breathing is important. Breathing in is important. But faith should look practical and lived out. The gospel of Christ is a continual reminder that it is lived out. As I close, I want to look at that final act of what it is to breathe out. What is the final act of breathing out? The final act of breathing in is this knowledge that we will go out and do something. The final act to breathe out is this. As you breathe out, you will cry and the Lord will answer. You will cry for help and he will say, here I am. The final act of giving out is not that you are the answer to the world's problems. The final answer is that you now need to come back to God with the awareness that he is the answer. If you do away with the yoke of oppression, with the pointing fingers and malicious talk, and if you spend yourselves on behalf of the hungry and satisfy the needs of the oppressed, then your light will rise in the darkness and your night will become like noonday. Just as we feel like we are running out of energy and out of breath, and as if we've spent ourselves as much as we can spend ourselves living out our faith, the final part of breathing out is to prepare ourselves to breathe God back in. The danger is we become so focused on one or the other. We are so intent on breathing in that we forget to breathe out, to be present in the community around us. The other danger is we get so focused on being proactive that we forget to maintain our relationship with God by breathing in. The rhythm is there for us to see. Like a runner and an accordion and a fire and a compost heap. We need to be a people who breathe in and breathe out. We breathe in God. We pour out practically. We breathe in God. We pour out practically. We repeat the process of in and out. Too much of either side will result in us collapsing. But finding that rhythm and balance of life will allow us both to deepen our relationship with God and see a far more profound impact in the communities in which we live.